Hi everyone, welcome to Aurelia's Virtual Book Club. We're talking about City of Masks by Ashley Capes today. Ashley wanted to come hang out with us, but he has a family function, so no Ashley. But that's okay, we can have an awesome discussion. I loved this book. I actually started reading it back in February, and I had to force myself to put it down so I wouldn't finish it too fast. Of course, then life happened and I had to finish reading it in like bits and pieces in between everything. But it was so fun, so much interesting stuff all packed in. So, just in case you're new, this is the discussion. So there will probably be spoilers at some point in the show. So if you don't like spoilers, go read the book first and come back and listen to this later. So, City of Bones. There's a super awesome tiered city on the sea, which Ashley told us last time was inspired by Amalfi in Italy. And the ocean plays a huge role. It's this sort of mysterious, dangerous force. There's a sea creature that comes for no apparent reason and wreaks havoc, and they have singers who can calm this beast and make the storm go away, which is really interesting to think that music can control something so uncontrollable. I really like that. But the story is primarily about three characters. There's Sophia, and she's the daughter of the second most powerful man in the city, Anoski. Or Anaskar, sorry. Anoski's the language. Anaskari. I'm terrible with names. Remembering them off the top of my head. But yeah. So Sophia finds out at the very beginning that her brother is dead, and she has to do the unthinkable for a woman and become the heir. Which, being a dutiful daughter, she's prepared to accept, but it's not really what she wants. The other character from Madagascar, his name is Notch, and the book opens with him in a cell, and he's there because he's been wrongfully accused of something. He's really distraught over this because he doesn't want to have to clear his name again. He's already had to travel and change his name, and apparently it was such a big ordeal that he just doesn't want to have to do that again. So he really wants to escape somehow and clear his name and prove his innocence, but he's stuck in a cell. The third character, Ain, he is from a different cultural group. He is out in the desert, far away. His people originally lived in the city, but got kicked out, presumably several centuries ago. And he is a pathfinder, so his magical talent is he can feel and hear the footbeats of people who have traveled along paths. So he can find a path even if there's no road, even if the sand dunes have completely changed, because he can feel the rhythm of the feet of the people who have walked that path before. And he finds out that one of his good friends has sprained his ankle or broken his leg and can't go on this sacred quest anymore, so he has to go instead. And And so he has to abandon the love of his life and his unborn child to do this. So there's a lot of conflict within each of these characters between their duty and what they really want to do. So there's a number of times where Sophia wants to just let things happen, but she has to find out and save her father. She has to find out what these people want so that she can um, foil the plot against the crown, even though she doesn't believe in the king or the prince. She thinks like that they're not worthy, which they aren't. Notch, escapes, and then he has to help with preventing some of these terrorist attacks that happen, that the people trying to take the crown have organized these terrorist attacks, basically bombings. And at certain times he has to help prevent those bombings when really what he wants to do is help find and rescue Sophia from the people who are organizing the bombings. And and Aang has to go on this quest even though he really wants to stay home with his girl. So that's really interesting. But there's also, so one of the things I really found fascinating was how important bones are. So bones are not just bones, they're like magical. And there's a number of points. Obviously the priesthood of the city, they carve masks out of bone and they wear those masks to as part of their uniform, as a symbol of their role in society. But there's also several points where the harbor witch, she is paid with bones, and the bell that Aang has to ring once he reaches the sacred ocean shrine, that has to be rung by using a bone. And I think it's so interesting because if you think about it in real life, bones are what give us structure. They're what allow us to move and to build and create in the real world and not just in the world of imagination, right? If we were limited to not having bones, there's not a whole lot we could do except sort of squish our way from one place to another in the same way that a slug does. So our bones are really important, and they have allowed us as people to do amazing magical things. So I think it's really interesting that in this world, bones are magic beyond just giving structure and function. I think that's a really cool metaphor for how important bone really is. Um, yeah, so that was fun for me. I have a little bit of a techie background. I studied biomedical engineering, so it's cool. Um, yeah, so much good stuff. I liked how all of the different pieces came together in the end, and how things that you thought were true at the beginning, like Tontos being dead, weren't actually true. And and how much people thought they knew but didn't, and how much people had to figure out, with especially with like Aang having to figure out all of this stuff when his primary source of knowledge, the wizard, the mage, he gets killed in when they cross the wards, and they're left with his papers, but they can't read all of his papers. And they've lost his knowledge, which presumably was more than just the papers he brought with him. So they had to figure out, how do we ask the right questions to get where we're going? How do we ask the right questions not to die once we're stuck in this temple? And they end up doing things without realizing what they're doing, and they don't know that by ringing this bell, they're really causing problems. So that's really interesting, because their intentions are good. They want to reclaim their ancestral city for their people, but they end up causing all of this death and destruction and misery in the process. And that reflects, I think, how Tontos causes all of this death and destruction, all because he wants vengeance for the death of his love. And at the same time, Sophia has all of these special powers, but she has no idea that they're relevant for anything. Like, she thinks it's all just coincidence. She doesn't realize how significant it is that she is the one that has this encounter in this cave that saves her from Tontos when he's looking for her out in the woods. And she doesn't realize that she's special when she's wearing a mask. Like, her abilities to use these masks are bigger than the abilities of the other Mascari to use their masks. And it's not just her mask, it's her. And she doesn't realize it at all until the end, when the sea beast speaks to her. And I think that's really interesting, how unaware she is of her own potential. She just wants her family to be how it was when she was younger, when everything was happy and wonderful, which is something we can all relate to, right? Everything is perfect when you're a kid. But at the same time, so many of us don't realize our potential. I know so many people who are amazing, but they don't want to believe in themselves, and they don't want to go that extra step to show the rest of the world that they're amazing at what they do, because they don't believe it themselves. They don't realize it. And I think it's really interesting how Sophia is in that same place. And I also think it's really interesting how much Sito knows about everything, and he finds certain documents in the library that are clearly related to Ain's journey, and if Ain had those documents, he would be able to accomplish his task much better, much easier. But he doesn't have that information. Sito does, and the two of them, obviously, because they're from different cultures, they're in different places, they're in different social status. They can't communicate. They can't, like, they're not in a position to work together. They just don't even know that they could possibly work together. And that's really interesting too, because how many times have you mentioned in passing to someone that you knew that you were interested in something, that you were recently learning about something, and you wanted to apply it to your life? Say maybe you were trying to learn how to sing, or maybe you were trying to learn search engine optimization, or you were trying to, you know, figure out how to paint. And you find out, oh, someone someone you've known for years is really good at that and like teaches it. And you just never knew because it wasn't relevant to any conversation you'd ever had before. So like it's so easy to spend so much time without knowing who has the knowledge you need, right? And it shows sort of the value of having the willingness to ask people, do you know this? Can you tell me if you do? How can you help me find out what I need to know? How can I help you find out what you need to know? Because if we all work together, then we share our knowledge. But if we don't even try, if we don't even ask, then we'll never know what the people we know and might be able to do to help us. So that's really, you know, yeah. Um I really liked this book. Actually, it's super easy for me to come up with things I liked about this book because it was awesome. The one thing I think I didn't well, it wasn't that I didn't like it. The one thing that was like confusing a little bit. There we go. The one thing that confused me a little bit was the timeline around Sophia's leg being broken and then being better. So, because I have a biomedical background, it it seemed in the storyline like it was only like a week or maybe 2 weeks between when she broke her leg and when it was healed. But I think in actuality more time passed because after 2 weeks you can't walk on a broken leg. It just, I mean, not without being deformed forever. Um, okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but like the bone hasn't healed yet, so it's not. Yeah, I don't know. That was the one thing that was a little bit confusing to me, but it wasn't a big part of the story, so it didn't trip me up or anything. I just thought I should mention one thing I didn't like, or that's again, didn't like is too strong. Um, yeah, I really liked this book. I'm definitely reading the next book. I can't wait to find out what happens when Sophia finally finds her dad. Um, Especially if everything Tonto says at the end about her dad being the one who caused all this, who like started everything, if he was really involved that much in the beginning, like Tonto says, then is he gonna admit that? Is he gonna try and hide it and cover it up? Is he gonna actually tell the truth? Is he gonna lie about it? What's gonna happen with Ain and um is he gonna get out? Is he gonna get home? Is he gonna get to see his kids ever again? Is he like gonna be able to talk to Ceto? Are they gonna figure out that there's so much magic stuff that they've lost because these two cultures have been fighting, and if they would just stop fighting and start working together, that they could achieve so much more? I don't know. I'm super excited to find out. Yeah. I think there's two more books. For sure there's another one. Um, and I think that's it. Definitely read it for sure. Tell other people to read it too. It was so good. All right. I'll see you next week. We have another awesome book lined up for April and an awesome book lined up for May. I'm super excited. If you want to know when future events are happening, you can always sign up to get updates and things at www.amcasey.com/join. And I will get in touch with you. I'm excited. Bye.